What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of G4 to Your Eternity. This is episode 19, and with me, as always, I have Bluespit.
So we're picking up after that crazy cliffhanger from the last episode. So it's just pretty much focused on Tonari is with her. I think her last remaining friend, Sandal. Of course, they're running towards the corpse pit in order to try to destroy the knockers over there. But at the same time, we also see Hayase getting involved for the first time in this incident. And there was one instance where one of the knockers, and it tried to get into her arm, but then it's almost like she just relished that moment for a time, and then she just ripped it out of her arm.
Yeah, we were kind of wondering where Hayase was in the last episode, but of course, in this one, she decides to kill some of these zombies. But yeah, one gets into her arm and she just kind of rips it out. It was kind of weird because it seemed like she was almost enjoying it when it was just in her arm like that. I mean, if anything, I guess this goes to show just how really the whole episode just goes to show how crazy Hayase really is.
It's almost like she sympathizes with the knockers of how they want to go after Fushi and such, but of course, she realizes their objectives differ in some manner. But yeah, so she, of course, in the distance, she notices Tonari and her friend running towards the corpse pit, and she's about to kill them. But of course, Fushi charges in and just pins her down with a giant bear form. And
I don't know how she didn't get her spine broken or something. Like she's still fine after that.
Yeah, but Hayase, of course, just pretty much is just goading Fushi at this point, just to have him kill her. But of course, she also tells Fushi that Tonari and her friend are about to be killed by the knockers. So Fushi pretty much just gets away from Hayase and then just starts burning up all the knockers in his way, including destroying the corpse pit with the fire from Gugu's form.
Yeah, and then of course we learn from Fushi's creator there's still 3 knockers left, which of course we find out are Tonari's friends that were turned into these zombie creatures. But of course, before Fushi can do anything, Hayase swoops in and just takes Tonari and basically is having her dangle from the edge of the pit where the fire is at. So she's just going to saying she's going to throw her in the fire. Basically, Hayase wants Fushi to choose whether what was it, to have Tonari die or to have her go and kill these last 3 knockers, which I didn't really understand because I'm like, well, I mean, what's the bad part about you going to kill them? They're not alive anymore; they're dead, and they're zombies. So I didn't really understand. I don't know. It seemed like a weird choice to me.
I mean, she could be lying for one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think she would have killed Tonari anyway had Fushi made the decision, and all she wanted was to have Fushi for herself. And
yeah, we do learn later that apparently that that's a lot of that was her main motivation, I guess, to kill some of these people is that she just wanted to have Fushi for herself, which she kind of comes off as like a yandere almost with the way she's acting, which is not really the kind of character I took her for at first, but I suppose I don't know, because she explains later on in the episode that after she first saw what he was capable of, that supposedly she fell in love with him, which really wasn't the impression I got from her at first. I thought she was just interested in him as some sort of something to experiment on or something. I didn't really get the impression she was in love with him, but I guess she was.
Yeah. So of course, Tonari of course recovers enough just to only pretty much try to drag Hayase and herself into the fire pit, and it looked like for a moment that Tonari was gonna die at this point, but then all of a sudden, just Fushi manages to catch both Tonari and Hayase out of the fire pit, and then Fushi uses the same the knockout agent on Hayase, pretty much just to incapacitate her.
Yeah, I seriously thought at first that both of them were going to die, so I was a little bit surprised that Fushi managed to save both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of wrong about the Tonari dying in this arc, mostly because the opening did show part of her kind of like falling into the fire pit. So it felt like that was like a death flag.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so soon afterwards, Fushi finally decides to take matters into his own hands and just pretty much kill off the last remaining Knocker zombies, which is, of course, Upa, Mia, and Uroi.
Tonari was initially going to do it, but of course Fushi would, pretty much did it for her, so she wouldn't have to.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really see him do it; it just happens off screen. So, so pretty much like the rest of the island start rebuilding after that chaos, and then now they're looking up to Tonari because she's technically still the leader of the island after Hayase gave up the leadership rights to her. So instead of leaving the island, Tonari and her last remaining friend decide to stay on the island in order to pretty much convince the islanders to stop their bloodshed and violence in order to just rebuild it into, I guess, the more prosperous settlement on the island.
And I suppose they might have had somewhat of a change of heart after seeing the because one of them sees the dead, the Tonari's friends, like that had been killed, and says something like, why would they die for people like us? So maybe that might inspire them to sort of create the different place and not hold these like death tournaments or whatever anymore.
So I guess in a way, like, something good finally came out of this. I mean, we initially thought Tonari was gonna die, but now she's pretty much living for the greater good for the island now. And after,
it was still pretty tragic,
yeah,
but not as bad as some of the other story arcs we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, there was at least one person that Fushi's managed to save. But yeah, so sometime on the island, Fushi decides that he needs to leave the island, otherwise the Knockers are going to end up coming back and cause mayhem again. So he decides to take a boat with him and Hayase along with him, without like Hayase's men knowing where she is. So they say their last goodbyes, and then Tonari convinces, I think her pet owl to go alongside Fushi for the remainder of the journey.
Yeah, the owl pretty much acts as a guide to where Fushi should go next.
So Fushi and Hayase, of course, are alone in the boat, and like we discussed before, we realize like how truly obsessive Hayase is, and revealing why she ended up killing March and Perona in the first place, because she thinks to herself that they're going to take Fushi for themselves, and she's the only one that should be the one to have Fushi. And this, of course, this doesn't sit well with Fushi at all. And then he pretty much reiterates like how much he hates her, but he gets to the point where he decides not to kill her regardless. And
and he also asked her what her motives are, which she says that it's either she wants Fushi to kill her so that they can become one because Fushi would take her form, or I guess just impregnate her because she said she just wanted, like, that was the only other thing she wanted. But of course, Fushi says like, I hate you, which is not surprising considering what she's done. So instead of, like you were saying, instead of killing her, he just leaves her. He creates another boat, or a copy of the boat, and goes off in that boat, leaving her behind, just tied up in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, pretty much somewhere in the middle of nowhere, with which Fushi states that he wasn't paying attention to where he's going, so he's pretty much left her stranded out in the middle of nowhere. And as soon as Fushi leaves, one of the knockers gets on the boat that Hayase is on, and then just pretty much latches onto her, without us really knowing what happens to her afterwards.
It's fairly likely. I mean, she had no way of defending herself. Both her hands and legs were tied. I'm not really sure how she could have fought it off. So it's fairly likely she might just come back as a zombie.
I don't know as a zombie. I mean, she and that knocker seemed to have like some kind of symbiosis of some kind. Almost like you notice like the knocker like just stopped like digging into her arm when she was talking to it before she ripped it off. So it's possible that the knocker and Hayase may have some similar objectives. So it's possible that Hayase may end up coming back later on in the story.
So you think she would not really be like a mindless zombie, but something else?
Possibly something else, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what they were setting up. Because, like I said, I don't think there's any way that Hayase could have killed it in her state.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this really felt like, I mean, really, it kind of was like the last episode of this particular arc. Because after this, we just see like Fushi rowing to find another, to find the shore, which the owl guides him to. He eventually comes to a dock and finds a town. And that's pretty much where this episode ends. And I was kind of wondering like what the last episode would be, but according to the preview, Fushi is going to find Puren again and spend some time with her. And supposedly, as the narrator says, he's going to try to spend like his life with her or something. But I guess something's going to happen to disrupt that. And maybe it'll be some kind of a cliffhanger kind of ending, I guess. That's kind of what this seemed to be implying.
I mean, technically the story's not over for To Your Eternity. I mean, there's obviously another arc for this, but next week's episode is of course the finale for the first season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this was I thought this was a pretty good episode, honestly. Like, there were some things that happened I didn't really expect to happen. But there's not too much to say. I mean, like, I enjoyed it, but yeah, like it was not, at least not as sad as some of the other things that we've seen in the show.
I mean, it was still tragic to a certain extent. But at least Tonari managed to survive that ordeal, and now she's now that she's the leader of the island, she's looking to rebuild it. But it seems to hint that like she may end up coming back sooner or later, because she tells the owl she sends over to Fushi that the owl will guide her back to him or something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could expect her to reappear at some point in the series. Yeah. I mean, what did you think of how this particular arc ended?
I thought it ended off pretty well, in my opinion. Of course, Fushi is finally grown as a character after the entirety of the season. I mean, Fushi, of course, was pretty much almost a background supporting character, just due to the lack of intelligence he had at the time. But now, ever since the post Gugu arc, he's pretty much been front and center for the last arc, as pretty much the main character of the series now.
Yeah, I like that. At least he pretty much is more like a main character in this arc. And also Hayase coming back was pretty interesting, especially learning what she was really trying to do. It'll be interesting to see if she makes a reappearance again in the series, which I'm pretty sure she will, as well as Tonari. I do feel like both of those characters will probably come back at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not really sure where they could go from here. I mean, obviously there's probably other things that other characters Fushi will end up needing. The Knockers will probably come to disrupt his life, or he'll have to go and defeat more of them. What I'm most interested in, however, is learning what his creator's true goals are. Why is he using Fushi to fight the Knockers and all that?
I mean, we're obviously not going to get this answer, even by next week's episode. I mean,
Yeah.
It's probably just going to end off, definitely going to end off in some way with Fushi and Pioran by the last episode, and then we'll see where it goes from here, whether or not when we'll get a second season to this.
Yeah, I anticipate that we eventually will probably get another season, considering that the manga is it's still ongoing, so there's still plenty of stuff they could adapt. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this episode in particular. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
It was a good episode. I thought it ended off the arc off on a hopeful note for Fushi going forward. But with Fushi pretty much being a wanderer at this point, like we have to wonder, who else is he going to end up meeting, and how else is he going to develop his abilities even further? To fight against the Knockers.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like Hayase was sort of she kind of became, I guess it seemed like the main villain of the series at this point in the story. But now that she's gone, I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be somebody to take her place as one of the main villains or whatever. But yeah, other than that, that all being said, until next Monday, we will see you all next time.